we're talking here today to Howard Johns, who is the chairman of the Solar Trade Association of the United Kingdom, and who's also running a successful installation business in England. That company is called how?
Southern Solar.
And you're doing both solar thermal and solar PV?
Correct, yeah. This year it's more slanted to PV because there's a good feed-in tariff, so we're busy with that. But yeah, we've done thermal and PV for 10 years now.
And that's the same with the association, I understand. So it's now merged between solar thermal and solar PV?
That's correct. We represent both technologies and have about 450 members doing everything from straight PV to manufacturing of solar thermal. So full range.
A lot of people here at the ESTEC conference are talking about something of a feed-in tariff also for the heating sector. And the UK is about to launch the renewable heat incentive. Can you explain a little bit how this would work and how you think that will influence the market?
In fact, we were meant to have launched the heat incentive about 3 weeks ago. Unfortunately, due to some technicalities, it hasn't launched. What the UK government's come up with is a heat incentive for industrial scale heat mechanisms, so biomass, heat pumps and solar thermal up to about 200 kilowatts therm. So we've got potentially a market growing in the UK when they sort out the paperwork, hopefully any day now, for sort of commercial scale solar thermal. The idea being it will be heat meters attached to the system and there will be a feed-in tariff payment per kilowatt hour of 8.5p for every kilowatt hour. We're not quite sure whether that's usable kilowatt hours or whether that's generated kilowatt hours. The detail's not quite there yet.
And commercial systems means what kind of market? Who would be the customers for such systems?
Hotels, swimming pools, all those sorts of clients, so councils, basically anywhere that's not standard domestic dwellings, so any building that is not lived in.
And you think this will be a big push in the market?
In terms of the rate of returns are quite low, and in terms of the uptake, I think this is the best sector to go for, just because they're working on paybacks, and actually we can probably deliver pretty good paybacks into those sectors because they're high heat users. So, you know, it's probably sensible and it should work. We're not obviously we don't have the policy yet. We've been waiting for it for over two and a half years now, and there's been a lot of uncertainty on the way. So we're not quite sure how the market will react, and it probably will take 6 months for it to really start to move along.
But this would only be for commercial larger systems. Is there anything in for the smaller systems, for what makes up probably 95% of the market so far, the domestic hot water systems?
Yeah, so that sector of the market's having lots of fun at the moment with another sort of short-term grant scheme and future funding gap. We're meant to be having a renewable heat incentive sort of concept scheme for that as well, but they didn't want to go down the sort of heat metering route for domestic properties because of the additional cost that would be loaded on, you know, in terms of the management of the whole thing. And so they've come up with this idea of deeming, i.e. saying, okay, if you put up this many square meters of collector and this orientation and this type of house, then you'll get this many kilowatt hours worth of credit out of it. But as yet, we don't know what that's going to look like. There's talk of it being launched in October 2012, along with a piece of legislation called the Green Deal. So it's about a year away, potentially, this would start. And the Green Deal is a whole package of energy efficiency measures bundled up with a loan scheme. And actually it doesn't really work very well on its own. So we're thinking they're probably going to bundle micro-renewables into it, so PV and solar thermal, to actually make it work. So we're hoping to have something, but we've got about 4 months worth of funding right now for domestic solar thermal, a 6-month gap, and then hopefully the heat incentive. But again, you've been promising our clients the heat incentive for 2.5 years. You know, it's going to be 3 by the time we get there.
What is the role in the UK? You had for a long time those planning rules for municipalities, so they required sometimes 10-20% of renewables in new buildings. Is that still in place, and does it have a good impact on the market?
I think that is the bulk of the market at the moment. Other than the domestic retrofit market, I think is quite small. It's sort of a lot of the companies that were operating in that area probably aren't doing so anymore. A lot of plumbing and heating engineers are working in that area. So the bulk of the market is social housing new build, with people like Worcester Bosch, Valent, large boiler manufacturers selling panels as part of a package of gear, so boilers and panels at the same time. So I think a lot of the market is driven by that, so building regulations and something called the Code for Sustainable Homes. Again, the lobby on those from the big house builders is quite strong, since we've got a new government that's very, very sort of in cahoots with them, and they're sort of being watered down. So we're hopeful that they stay, but it's looking likely that it might not. So we will need other things to drive the market.
Okay, thank you very much for these insights on the UK market.
Thank you very much.